Hey everyone, it's Jason. For today's video, we are going to look at the two different zombie-side games, Marvel Zombies, Heroes Resistance, and DCEASED, Gotham City Outbreak. Both of these are the retail release versions of the game. First of all, before going farther, what does that mean? Both these games had crowdfunding, Kickstarter, GameFound campaigns, where they released the big full base set, and then they had a bunch of expansions. Then what they did is Simon released retail editions, which they had some similar content taken directly from the other games, some of that stuff, some new slightly different stuff, like different hero cards, different sculpts. But then they had some dumbed down isn't the right word, but simplified components. So you got lots of standees for zombies and stuff instead of miniatures. The boards for keeping track of your hero stuff got reduced down to little dials instead of big giant plastic boards and having pegs and stuff. So they just took some of the stuff from the game, the more things that had more plastic, and they reduced them down. They reduced the number of tiles. Basically, they made a cheaper, cost-wise edition of the game. Has all the same gameplay elements, does all the same stuff, but it also has slightly different content than any of the stuff from the crowdfunding campaigns. I have done full videos for both of these games, so I'll leave a link in the description so you can check out if you'd like to see all the stuff in a lot more depth. The aim of this video is a couple things. One is if you see these two games on the shelf, because again, they're supposed to be the retail ones, and they'll probably be on, they might end up hitting out on, like, Walmart or Target shelves versus the other versions might only get to, like, gaming stores. You can decide if there's one you would want over the other. The other thing I want to show off is, if you pick up one, do you think it's going to be worth picking up the other? Because they're both base games. So sometimes people might be like, well, if I have all the stuff from base game A, what is going to be different enough in base game B for me to pick it up? So that's the other aim to kind of show off in here. The third thing, which is a little less, is if you already own all the stuff from one of these. So like, example, DCEASED, you picked up all the crowdfunding stuff, or a big majority of it, and you're looking, I already have that full base game from that campaign. Do I want to pick this up? And the same idea there is, or if I own all the Marvel stuff, do I want to pick up the retail one that wasn't part of the crowdfunding campaign? Again, the individual videos will go into a lot more depth and detail on that. These two are just, I'm going to do some quick things to just show off kind of what's the same between them and what's different between them, between not only just what comes in the box themselves, but even the gameplay elements between DCEASED and Marvel, because they did change some of the rules and how the game, what each game has. So Marvel has some stuff that DCEASED doesn't have, and this will apply not even just for the retail boxes, but this will apply for the entire campaign. There's stuff that Marvel does that the DCEASED series does not do, and vice versa. There's stuff that DCEASED does that Marvel does not do. To answer the very first, just maybe throwing out there for the first big question is there one I would recommend over the other? And I'm not going to answer that in a direct this versus that thing, because again, they each have their new things that one does that the other doesn't do. But the big question right off the bat's going to be, if you're a fan of Marvel, you're probably going to want the Marvel one. You're a fan of DC, you're going to want DC. If you absolutely loathe the other company, I don't think the additional little gameplay elements are going to be enough to sway you to pick up a full game of a company you don't like, or a group of things you don't like. If you're just a straight zombie side fan and you don't care about either one, then you're going to look at the stuff that's different between them. But I think a lot of people will be, I love DC, I'll pick up the DCEASED. I love Marvel, I'll pick up the Marvel one. Let's go ahead and look at what is, I'm going to kind of go what's the exact same, and then I'm going to look at what is basically the same. So they have the same, one game has this and one has this, or the same kind of things, but when we look a little bit closer at them, they're a little bit different. And then we'll after that, we'll look at what is actually 100% different. So the thing that is immediately exactly the same are the basic things. We have clips and stands for our character cards, so that way they can go ahead and link into each other, so you can tell which character is which. And then some of the simple components, like we have our exit tiles, we have our spawn points, which will have a 1. We'll have reds with blues on the back, the exits. Those are going to be the same number, same thing for all of them, exact same pictures. As far as I know, I don't think they changed them at all. That's why they're pretty generic zombies. The pictures could possibly be slightly different. These are from the DCEASED one. But if they are different, they're not Marvel or DC really themed. They're kind of generic zombies. We have an activation token. You just get some of these so you know which characters, if you've taken your turn or not. And then we have the doors. We have red, green, and blue doors. And then the other side, they're broken open. That is literally the only thing in the game other than, like, the stands for the miniatures, or the standees. They are the exact same. So you buy these 2 sets, everything else will at least be slightly different. So what do we have that is slightly different? And we're just going to do, like, a quick, like, this, and then we'll come back and look at it a little bit more in depth. So first thing is we will get 4 tiles for each set. So DC, you'll get Gotham and the Batcave in Wayne Manor on one side. In Marvel, you will get New York City with some iconic locations, and the other side is just some other iconic locations. So these are, again, 4 tiles, but each tile is different. We will get sets of dice. So DC will actually get blue dice. Marvel will get red dice. Now, here's one big difference. I don't know why they did this, but DC just did standard dice. I'm going to zoom down because we're getting a little bit smaller stuff. But yeah, DC got standard blue dice. Marvel got red dice with a little, like, kind of blood pips. And on the one side, it has a set of teeth. So Marvel's dice are a little bit cooler. And I'm going to keep DC on this side, Marvel on this side, just for anyone that's watching. Yeah, so there's a little bit of difference there. In the end, they're just dice. They're 6-sided dice. They do the same thing. They don't have any extra things. Just the Marvel ones will look a little bit cooler. Then we have our dials. These are, again, basically the exact same thing. They keep track of your XP. Just one is an Avengers little thing. One's the bat symbol on the back. Otherwise, they do the exact same thing. They're, again, just slightly different. Is it going to make any difference gameplay-wise? Nope. Exactly the same gameplay-wise. Then the next thing we have is just slightly different. And this one's a little bit interesting as well. So we have objective tokens for DC. They're little X's with the blue, green, and red. Kind of generic. Marvel actually got Stark crates. So again, they look a little bit cooler. They take up a little bit more space on the board. But then they have the red on the other side so you can hide them, where DC has those. So yeah, those are functionally, they're the exact same thing per game rules. It's going to tell you to go find the objective. You're going to look, flip it over, see if it's red, blue, green, whatever. Do whatever it says. Get your XP versus your story and all that. But yeah, they just identically, like, I don't know why they didn't make these, like, Wayne Tech crates, or, like, Wayne Tech, like, drop boxes or something. That would have been kind of neat. Or even, like, LexCorp. That would have been kind of like LexCorp crates or something. That could have been cool. Not sure what the reasoning behind why Marvel did that versus that. And again, this is in the retail edition. It isn't like the campaign one, the crowdfunding one did it better. So just a little interesting thing there. Alright, so those are the, like, basic things, or little simple components. Then we got heroes. So we get 6 heroes for Marvel. We'll look at these guys all a little bit closer in just a second. And we get 6 heroes for DC. Well, DC, we get 3 heroes. We get hero characters, or survivors. But we get the characters we actually get are 3 hero characters, or Bat Family characters, and 3 villains. Where Marvel, it's all Avengers. So again, that might make a little bit. If you like Batman themed stuff versus Avenger themed stuff, this might even break down more than just the Marvel Marvel versus DC, it might be like, oh, I like DC, but I don't care about Batman. Or I like Marvel, but I like X-Men or Spider-Man. I don't really care for some of the Avengers stuff. So that might be a little bit different there. But we get 6 playable characters regardless. The game is designed to be played as 4 players, so you always have kind of like 2 extra guys. And if you buy like the expansions or the other sets, you can get that. In the same vein, we have 4 zombies. So here we have some Bat allies and some Bat villains. Versus here we have 4 Avenger zombies. And then we have their spawn cards as well. So we get 4 spawn cards for them. And then Marvel has its 4 spawn cards as well. So we get, same thing there. 4 villains to fight, which come in randomly when you draw certain cards. To kind of go with that, then we also get Bystanders. Now, this is one thing where they are going to differentiate a little bit more. So we get our standees for our Bystanders. You can't really see who they are, but they're all Bat-themed characters, because of course we're in Gotham. And this is also, it's sort of interesting here. I didn't grab all of them. I only grabbed 4 of the Marvel ones. We have 6 total. I just didn't end up grabbing the other 2. But yeah, these are all kind of scattered about, because they're not just, because the Avengers don't just stuff. So we have like Pepper Potts for Iron Man. We have Okoye for Black Panther. Go Jonathan for Spider-Man. Couple of different characters that kind of go with each different Avenger versus just Gotham Bat-themed characters. Now, to note, all of these Bystanders are also available in the other sets as well as miniatures. So they will be available in the other full expansion packs or base games, or stretch goals possibly. I'm not going to say for sure all of them off the top of my head. So it's not like none of them are exclusive to this box. But then we'll get their character cards. And there's a little bit of a difference in rules in these. So we'll get into those when we start talking about those guys. And then we have the character cards for those. So that way you can tell who's summoning who. Yeah, so this is one big difference, though, from the retail set, is because, the campaign says you get standees instead. Then what we have is we have some tokens. And where did I put the tokens? We have interactive tokens, so Gotham, Batman gets the bat signal, Avengers gets the Avengers sign. There's tokens on the board that are interactable. They work differently. So that's a neat thing there. That's, we'll look at these a little bit more in depth. But yeah, so we're each going to get 1 token for each. So it's kind of, again, stays, this is the idea. Stuff that's kind of comparative, but slightly different. The zombies, we're going to get mini standees for them. This is another difference between them. So we have the same number of standees, 30 walkers, 10 runners, 10 brutes. But the difference is DC has clown-themed ones, whereas Marvel gets kind of like generic New Yorkers, more generic zombies. So there's kind of a little bit difference there. That might maybe you're afraid of clowns. Maybe you don't want to fight clown zombies. That could also be a potential there. Yeah, so I'm just going to look at these guys really quick, and I don't have to come back to them. Yeah, so you're going to get the 3 different clown styles. For DCEASED, we'll have, like, kind of generic clown here with a baseball bat, a bigger one is your brute, and a lady one that is your runner. But when we get to Marvel, you get a guy in a suit, a jogger lady, and a construction worker. Now, both of these will all differ from the campaign versions of the game. So in the base campaign versions for DCEASED, you get Lex Core Troopers instead. And in the Marvel one, which Marvel works a little bit differently because they actually have 2 base games. They have one where you play as zombies, and one where you play as heroes. In the hero one, where you play like traditionally, it's the X-Men one, so you're fighting off against Hellfire Club zombies. So again, that might be a thing there. Maybe you'd rather have standees. You might want to pick these up because you like to use standees to replace the miniatures, so you don't have to use all the miniature characters. Or just maybe you don't want LexCorp and you're fine with clowns. Maybe you don't want Hellfire Club and you like generic ones, or maybe you like generic ones for all of them. So it's kind of, you know, you're so some reason to maybe pick up the games, even if you don't. The last two things we of course have is we have our spawn decks, which are going to have some little bit of differences from one to the other. So that's the DC one. We'll have the Caesars showing the LexCorp troopers on the back. I do have the Marvel one sleeved though, because I've had this one for a while. Then we have all the deceased, the zombie ones, and there's Hellfire Club guys and Jamie Madrox, multiple man on the back, X-Men themed ones. So I don't know if there's the same number. There's 30 in there. We have 30 of these. 32. So there's actually 2 more cards in this than there is in that one. But they do have some differences, and I do want to go over what the differences are, because they are actually very significant differences on how they play, because they changed up the game. Then we have our hero trait decks, which will give you kind of special abilities to use. Some of these are the same from one set to the other. Some are different, so we'll look at those a little bit more in depth as well. We get 2 copies of each, and then hero traits for Marvel. Now, this is the only thing also keep in mind for all of these. So if you decide, hey, I'm going to play DC, I'm going to pick up more DC stuff, pick this up to go with my campaign stuff, great, you can mix and match all the cards. They have the same backs. Marvel is the same way. But if you want both, you want to mix Marvel and DC together, the hero traits are going to say deceased on the back. Marvel will say Marvel Zombies. So you can't just, in general, just slam them together unless you don't care if the backs might be different. And the same thing's going to be with your spawn cards, is if you just try and mix these together, you're going to have different characters on the back. You know, for some people, that's not a big deal. They don't really care. You're on the same thing with your bystanders and stuff as well. So, like, and these might actually make a little bit more of a difference, because it's going to be, they're face down on the board, so you might know, oh, I'm rescuing a DC character versus I'm rescuing a Marvel character. But again, if you buy a bunch and you have 20, 30 of each sitting around, you know, it might be worth, hey, just mix them together. Who cares? You don't know which of the 20 DC you're getting. You just know it's a DC character versus a Marvel. The only way it would ever be an issue is if, like, you have an example, a mission that says rescue Mary Jane, but you don't know which of the ones are Mary Jane, and you put out, and you're just shuffling, so you put out 4 Marvel and 4 DC. Well, you know that the DC ones aren't going to be Mary Jane, so you know you could potentially avoid those 4. That would be the only thing here and there. I like the Batman has one where you have to rescue Alfred, and there's only 4 tiles in that mission. So you only have 4 cards. If all of a sudden you combine these 2 sets and you had 2 DC and 2 Marvel, you would immediately know that 2 of them aren't Alfred. So you could ignore them if you wanted to, which kind of takes out some of the randomness of it. Then the last thing, the only last component we have that is very different is DC comes with equipment cards as well. This is something Marvel did not have, so it is one of the other differences. But they each have their own little bit of unique differences and twists. Alright, so that is our basic overview of them. So you can see, like, except for the equipment piles, they all relatively have, they both have the same type of stuff. So it's like 6 heroes, 4 villains, spawns, bystanders, spawn decks, action things, trait decks. So they'll keep the same amount of stuff. The overall rules stay the same. Line of sight, how you take your actions, priorities for who attacks who, how the experience and traits work, how walkers, brutes, all that stuff. All of that stays the same. The difference in rules are very minimal, but they are, I think, kind of significant for what some of the changes are. So before we look at some of the other tiles, I just kind of want to go over what the differences in the 2 rows are. So DCEASED has, I'm going to boot back my camera back out. DC's has equipment cards, so Marvel does not have them. Now, is there any reason why you couldn't add these into, like, you combine the games, or if you just wanted to pull them cards out and use them in Marvel, why couldn't you use them? The only reason is, one reason would be, because on the board, they have your spawn points, your bystander points, and then they have an equipment box. Marvel's map tiles wouldn't have them. Now, you could, again, just pick an extra room. So, for example, if we're doing this room, right there, one of those, just dropping equipment in that spot, right? Same idea. Same thing. You have one there. If you wanted to put in equipment, you could put in equipment in the third room. There's nothing that says that you couldn't just figure out where you decide to drop it and lay a card down. So they could easily work that way. So yeah, that's one of the big differences there, is they have equipment cards. So they work, so they just give an extra little bonus. And you can have equipment, give you some extra, maybe an extra skill. Gives you extra bonuses because you could have Batman, who's a ranged character. He could pick up a melee weapon. Now he has access to both melee and range. So that could potentially make the DC characters and the DC stuff, have them a little bit more flexibility, a little bit stronger. Marvel, on the other hand, has what they do. Their little bit of difference in their rules is actually their bystanders. So we do have some bystanders here that will have a fist symbol, which are combats. We see like Sharon Carter, not Happy Hogan, has it. So if they actually get attacked, they have a chance on a 5 or a 6 to prevent the wound. So not all, but some of the Marvel bystanders will actually be able to help protect themselves and not die as soon as zombies get near them. So it does make them a little bit more flexible. Now, is that equal gameplay value? No. I think the equipment is a lot cooler than being able to have bystanders be able to attack. I do agree. It's kind of weird, though, that they made that feature for Marvel and then they didn't carry it to DC. Maybe they just thought it was just too much of an extra rule, because now you have to, instead of just having a bystander, you just have to rescue and pull around the map. Now you also have to keep an eye to make sure, can they defend against attacks? Whereas you just get rid of it, it's one less mechanic you have to remember. So there's a potential there for something like that. Those are the two big differences in the rules. The only other thing that does come about with Marvel versus DC is the way the Marvel Zombies was structured versus the way DC is. So in the story for Marvel Zombies, the comic books, anytime a hero, villain, whoever got bit, they retained their faculties. They were able to talk, do stuff, still use all their superpowers. They just wanted flesh. They became zombies. They wanted to eat things. So Marvel's core thing actually starts out, its main core box with the Avengers, you actually play as zombies. And then the one you play as heroes is actually the X-Men core box. So they had two different core boxes. This one you did play as heroes because they figured a lot of people would have preferred that in retail. And I only bring this up because there's nothing in this mode that lets you play as zombies. You do have to buy the regular core set to do that if you want to play with them. But what does make it neat is because it lets all of your, as you buy more of the Marvel stuff, it basically lets almost all of your heroes and your villain, or your heroes, either the zombies or the survivors, flip-flop back and forth. So if you pick up the core set, you have Hulk in here as a playable hero. In the core set, he's a playable zombie. So then you have both of them, but then basically you can turn this Hulk then into a hero to fight against. Again, none of the stuff in here comes with a version for that. They just have alternate sculpts you could use, but it is something to keep in mind of hey, you want to get stuff like that where you can play as both. Marvel Zombies might be the way. DCEASED, on the other hand, the storyline for this is the anti-life virus spreads around, turns everyone, basically drives them mad, and all they want to do is make unlife. They either want to kill everything, or they want to infect it with the anti-life virus, so that it's dead. Anyhow, and then they'll just keep attacking. But they are all senseless, mindless beings. They might retain very slight little things they remember, some skills, but not to the extent like the Marvel guys do, which is why Marvel characters as zombies were playable, and DC, they are not playable. Because basically it would be like they said, if you picked Batman as a zombie, he would just be like any other zombie in the street. Yeah, he might have a little thing here or there, but to play as him, his goal would be move to this guy, attack him. Whereas the Marvel zombies, when you're playing as them, they actually like retain like, hey, Captain America knows how to use a strategy and still throw his shield around. You know, Spider-Man would be able to still use his spider sense. And so that's why they did it that way. So it's a different game. But, you know, if you're just playing as heroes, there's no reason why you can't pick up both of these and have Batman teaming up with, you know, Black Panther, you know, Hulk and Bane working together versus, you know, Zombie, Captain America, and Joker. So they're 100% compatible that way. Alright, so that's kind of the first part of this video. I'm still going to do a full thing in here, but we're going to go ahead and break down and look at some of the more individual differences between some of the decks and cards and that stuff. So I just wanted to go over the overall differences. So the first thing I just want to look at quick is let's look at the differences in tiles. So I'm going to start with Marvel. So Marvel, and I'm not going to like look at all the details too much, but Marvel has more standard core game more core game zombie side tiles where they're usually like L's or horseshoe shapes. And these are going to be the same tiles that are in the retail Marvel Zombies box where you actually play as zombies. Where the Batman, the DCEASED ones for Gotham City Outbreak are going to be the same as ones in Gotham Knights, which is actually an expansion. So that's why they have a little bit more unique tiles. The expansions usually added a little bit twist. So yeah, for the Marvel ones here, we're going to the Daily Bugle. We're going to have kind of like so I always call it like the L shape. We have the roads where the goes were an L, a couple little rooms there. We get the other side. It's more or less the same thing, except we have a corner in here. We get the horseshoe shape or the U shape. So it goes around with two rooms there. We flip it over. We get a main big building, so they're kind of embassies. So it has, you know, one door into the building. Couple of things, but there's a lot of exits out of there. You can leave here, 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 here. Here. So you have a lot more options to make bigger building rooms. And then here we have another, you know, L shape with 4 rooms. But again, you can leave. They have doors that connect all 4 sides. So you can combine these together to make really big rooms. And then we have a straight line one, which again lets you leave on either side. And then the fourth tile, we have Oscorp, which has another building, a little extra hole back here, but has an exit out the back. Otherwise, yeah, like one front door, side street. And then we have a central square tile. You go in here, has some extra stuff there. Otherwise, it kind of goes in the center. You can put it off to the side. So kind of like generic or basic shapes, they work really well for just getting used to the game because it's all like, you know, pretty simple. DC's, on the other hand, has a little switch up because, again, this is an expansion. So a little bit of difference. We have, like, right here's crime alleys. So we have kind of like the border, instead of having one big one, we have 2 separate little rooms. I'm going to look at just the Gotham tiles first. Then we'll flip them over. So here we have Ace Chemicals, which is kind of, again, your horseshoe. Get the same idea there. But what you're also going to notice is on here, there are no extra walls on the outside. So if we look at our horseshoe on the Marvel one, which was right here, we had a doorway on the opposite side. So if, like, I run these together, you know, obviously there's going to be some color differences because Gotham's not darker than that. But they don't have a way for you to run Ace Chemical into that. I mean, you could obviously throw a door right there if you really wanted to, but it doesn't have a note for a door to be there. They kind of make all of these buildings just their own little buildings on the outside. And I don't know if that's just, again, a game choice or how they decide that. So here we have Wayne Enterprises. You know, it's kind of your L shape, but they have a little bit bigger building in there. And then the last one is we get a central tile, but again, a lot bigger central. The Marvel one was one little square. Sorry, lost where I put that. It's one little square, one room. This has 5 different rooms in it. So yeah, a couple of different other things there. Then where it becomes very different is the opposite side. So in DCeased, we have Wayne Manor, which will have some doors on the outside. So they did put doors on the border, so it's not like they didn't do that. But here we have the beginning of Wayne Manor, has a couple of rooms. It actually has some big giant room here, but it has 6 different locations in there. But then they have the connecting rooms that go together. So these actually form together like that, because on the outside they don't have any extra things. So this forms a singular type of room here. So like every single mission here will have this tile, and then we will have the 3rd spot of the tile over here. So they form a single row. So yeah, a little bit more interesting stuff here. That you can do a little bit different room styles, but it's every mission always has this exact same ones on the same row. And then they usually add the bat cave in here. If you get to Gotham City Night, the full expansion, you get these 4 tiles plus a couple more, which adds some more bat signals, or bat cave tiles. Well, then all the missions always have this one up here. So basically you're activating this to slide down the bat pole to go into a new area. But yeah, what happens with this then is with the Gotham part, you can rearrange using all different orders. Have them straight in a line, you can have them in a square, you can have them in a T shape, an L shape, however you want. But when you get to the Wayne Manor, it's always going to be the exact same T shape. 3 in a row, 1 on top. There's really no way to like move these around too much because they have the doors only on the one side. So it's and the Marvel did the same thing with a couple of the other sets of theirs get expansions did as well. Like comparatively, the X-Men set, when you get to the X-Mansion, it's very similar to the same idea. They have the X-Mansion, which needs to be built a certain way, and then they have that. But so in Marvel, you will get a lot more. You might not get as interesting room tiles because they're kind of just some bigger rooms. Like 2-3 rooms or 4 square rooms like this. But what you will do is you'll have a lot more flexibility with these 4 tiles to alternate between all 8 sides. So you can play them like these 4, then you can flip them over to these 4, then you can play these 2 and flip these 2 over, then play these 2, flip over just these 2. You have a lot more options on how you set the boards up. Where the DC one, you're not going to have as many options. So that's just, again, and you can always mix and match them then later on as well. Again, like you can have Oscorp next to Ace Chemical. And there's nothing stopping you like running them in like that. So if you bought both, you could mix and match them. So that is definitely a thing there. The next little thing we want to look at are actually our tokens here. So we have, I'm going to see if I can prop these up here quick. So we have 2 different activation tokens, and they're going to work differently. So this is kind of cool because if you, again, looking at this is if you pick up both of them, or, you know, if you want to get the other one or pick one up, is that each one does a different thing. The bat signal is going to tell you, each mission will tell you where they might be on the board. This one does not want to stay on here, and I keep bumping this. I gotta find my other easel here quick. But the bat signal is going to stay in one place, and it's just going to do whatever it does wherever it's at. The Avenger sign is actually a weapon that lets you use it, and you can throw it at someone in a range. It's going to go somewhere else and move it, and then you can throw it a second time. So it's kind of neat because they do completely different things, but it's also the thing. And one thing to also point out versus the campaign set is DCEASED has a lot more, at least a few more objective tokens or like object tokens like the bat signal, because they have like some phone booths, some telephone poles, a couple other things in some of the expansions. Marvel has like, I think like 2 other things. They have the sign, they have the Sentinel hand, and I think they have some explosive canisters in the Hydra shield set. Other than that, they don't have as many. They didn't really focus on that, and I think they liked it, so they brought it to Deceased a little bit more. So if you like to have objects around Deceased stuff, eventually we'll have more. Then let's take a quick look at those Bystanders. Alright, we are going to look at the Bystander cards first. So first of all, I'm going to say apologies for my dusty little purple thing here. Normally I use my easel, but for whatever reason, I can't find my second one. So we have to go to the backup plan, and this very nice little card holders and token holders, but they do collect dust, and they're hard to get off because they're kind of rubbery. So as we kind of stated before, is we both have both decks or both games, DCEASED and Marvel Zombies, each have same number of Bystanders. For functionality of how they work, like finding them, selecting them, escorting them, all that stuff basically works the same. If no hero has them, every turn they will try and move towards the closest superhero to help save them. Again, the big difference though is that the Marvel ones, some of them have attacks. Now, the other difference between them, so again, this could be useful if you're deciding whether you want one game versus the other, is how the Bystanders, because they activate in every single mission. This isn't, oh, this mission has it, this mission. They're going to activate any time because they're on the map, they pop up. So they're always going to be there, so they are a big part of the game. Is that the Marvel ones tend to be a little bit more aggressive. They have combat abilities. They tend to boost you up that way. DCs tend to be more kind of on the back end with a little bit more supportive abilities, gaining you extra little boosts in here, like extra card draw, or like extra trait or things. But again, they kind of balance that out because you're also getting equipment in the DC set. So one thing to just show right away is in some of the campaign versions, you will get these cards as well for Marvel, but they come in the Deceased retail boxes. You get 2-8, which is actually a zombie spawn. And you also get secret missions 1 and 2. And these will relate to some of the scenarios. Now, these will, again, come in some of the other Marvel campaign sets as well, but they add them into this. And I think it's partly because they're pulling these from the expansion set instead of from the base set. So yeah, there's 3 extra cards you're going to get there. So I did kind of try and see if I could like match up some of the heroes to each other, or the Bystanders to each other, but they only match up so well. So we have like Lucius Fox, Pepper Potts. It's each time you gain a power-up action, you gain a power. It says once during a turn you may spend a power to draw a hero trait. So they're not exactly the same, because DC is going to have a little bit more stuff where you're gaining power-up actions, which give you 2 extra power, so you can use your abilities more often. Marvel is going to have you spending more power. So here we have like Carmen Falcone versus Happy Hogan. I'm going to maybe do one of these at a time just because of this holder. That's the reason I don't like this holder as much. So during your turn, discard your trait to perform a power-up versus Happy. Once during your turn, spend 1 to push enemies in the active zone. So again, I'm getting either power-up action or I'm getting a hero trait, but again, the Bystander is giving you something to make your hero do more stuff, where you're going to see the Marvel ones are going to be more like, oh, he's literally giving you an extra action, an extra ability that might be on one of the hero characters. Harvey Bullock versus like Jay Jonah here. Before attacking, discard a hero trait to add 2 extra dice to a roll, so it boosts up your attack. But Jay Jonah's is enemy spawn within 2 range before any rush. You may spend 1 power to move, ignoring enemies. So it gives you, instead of just giving you additional attack, which are what hero traits and power-ups are basically going to do, giving your hero better stats, it's actually giving you basically an extra ability. Then we get into the Marvel ones, which now start getting a little combat symbol on them, which means they're going to fight back as well. Gordon versus Carter here. So each time a hero zombie is eliminated, or a bystander is rescued, draw a hero trait. Again, giving you more hero traits. Where Carter here says, after you perform a ranged attack, you may spend 1 power to reroll any misses. Now, this is where this becomes interesting between the two, is because, so Sharon will be better off with any ranged characters. So every hero only has 1 thing listed on their card, which tells what their type of attack is. if you're combining these for whatever reason, since you could pick up equipment, you could make any character have both ranged and melee. Shellicing becomes a lot more effective because you could give her to anybody and they could also get an equipment card to give them that ranged attack if they didn't have it. Otherwise, she's only going to be useful for ranged characters. So she might get picked up by, let's say, the Hulk, who's going to be a melee character. You're going to want to definitely trade her off with somebody else that could use her better. So it does kind of make them a little bit more limited in that sense as well. Now the same thing kind of with Alfred versus Wong. Alfred says when rescued, draw random equipment and a hero trait. So it gets you more things to boost up your hero. Where Wong literally gives you, hey, you perform an extra melee attack and you spend one to reroll misses, which works more like an ability card. And then the last two we have are Oracle versus Okoye. Both O names. I did not plan that. Once during your turn, you may spend 2 to take 1 card from the heroic trait. Again, spending power, but you're getting heroic stuff. Versus Okoye says once during your turn, spend 1 to perform 1 free melee attack. So we have 2 guys that let you reroll ranged or melee misses. Her lets you get an extra free attacks. Again, the Marvel characters are, Bystanders, a little bit more aggressive, besides having the ability to maybe dodge attacks or combat symbols, or just giving you additional moves or abilities, versus the DC ones not. Now, I'm not going to say this is going to fall through every single DCeased. Once you get, or even all the Marvel ones, once you get through all the different expansions and all the stretch goal stuff from the campaigns, you're going to have a lot more variety in abilities. This is, again, we're just trying to compare these 2 sets. So then also to show off quick, just so we have an idea of the DCeased equipment you're going to get. So we're going to get like Grapnel during your turn, spend 1 to gain free move action. So we had like one of those abilities in the Bystanders. We have the Utility Belt, lets you discard to search for hero traits. We have the Huntress Crossbow, gets you a ranged attack. So now you have an alternate attack to use, and after completing a move, you may spend perform 1 free attack. So also gives you an ability. Joker's Crowbar gives you a melee attack. Each time you eliminate a brute or zombie, you get a free power-up. Stun Rod gets you a melee ability. When every time you roll a 6, do 2 extra hits. And Batarangs give you, for attacking, you may spend 1, and it gives you a range. So you get, in here, you get 2 ranged and 2 melee actions, plus 2 just kind of extra abilities. So I think the item cards more than make up for the Bystanders' lack of additional abilities, and more of this stuff is like a little power up or when you draw an extra trait card. So then they become, yes, you need to rescue them, they're there, but you still, like, if you lose them, it's not like, oh crap, I lost a new ability I had. Whereas here you could go pick up equipment as well, and you could, then you get to keep it, even if your Bystanders die, or you rescue them, you get them to the exit or whatever. You don't lose that ability then. The other thing is you can also pass them around as well. So, and characters can carry multiple equipment. They can only use 1 at a time. So, like, I could have, for example, I could give Bane, both the Batarang and the Huntress Crossbow to give him some ranged attacks. They have the same stats, but I can switch which ability he has, depending on where he's going. So you have his big old melee attacks, his special traits or abilities that give him things that work with him. And I could give him, oh, now he has a Batarang because he's going to an area with a lot of walkers. Nope, there's no walkers. I could give him the other thing and give him extra free attacks. As he's getting closer to other guys. He's taking out this group, he's moving, switch to the crossbow. So you have a lot more flexibility with the equipment. But it also means it's another room you have to go search and look for. So there's also that. The other thing we get with the equipment, we get another mission 1 and 2, and we get another ambush. And these, again, just add for more things. Anytime you drop from a random pile, you might need to discover a certain mission, which has a thing for the scenarios. Or you might get hit by zombies because you're searching a pile. So these are kind of neat and different differences between them. The next thing we want to compare are our heroic traits. Now, each one has 14 different ones with 2 copies of each. In the core sets, you get 3 copies of each. You get another copy, but they're all, at least for Marvel, they were all the exact same ones. I don't believe there's any new ones from the one core set to the other. I don't remember if the X-Men one added different ones. I'll double check that before we finish looking at these. So again, the DCEASED one, the core set might have more expansion, might have some new ones, but I'm not going to promise that. But as of that, though, these are very different. Now, the thing is, again, if you're having, you can either have 2 piles out, if you're using both games, you pick which one, you can just shuffle them all together. Who cares which one you're going to get? The neat thing is, these are almost completely different decks, which is really neat. So there is going to be ambush cards. I'm going to show one of each. But either one of these are going to be the exact same. When they have the ambush card for the Marvel ones and this one, they'll have different pictures. But they're both spawning a walker, and then you draw another trait card. They did add heroic trait in there, but it's the same effect otherwise. Then we have some that are the exact same. We have Power Up. Discard during your turn for 1 free Power Up action. Exact same card, same artwork. Nothing bad there. We have Tenacity, or Tenacious. Same effect. But it has different artwork for whatever reason. So it's discard after attacking to reroll any dice. And there it is with discard after attacking. Here's the effect. Reroll any dice. Same exact thing. But yeah, those 2 are the exact same ones. And then I think the third one here are the same as well. We have Empowered Strike versus Mighty. Discard before attacking to spend 1 power to roll +3 dice. So again, Marvel just went up to and then you do this thing, get this effect. DC just put it all together. I don't know why there was that little change, why they had the name change on some of these. Now, after that, though, everything else is different. I tried to kind of pair them up to ones that are... I'm sorry, we got one more that are the same, but they're different names. And then I tried to pair them up to ones that seemed kind of similar, but it's not always the case. So you have Stand Your Ground and True Grit. Discard when enemy moves into your zone from 1 free attack action targeting your zone. Same thing, again, for whatever reason they changed the artwork on it and the name. Not really sure why. If they would have changed everyone, I would have understood it. Then we have this. So we have, now we're going to see some of the differences here. So in DCEASED, we have Past Defenses. Discard before attacking to spend 1 power to have enemies suffer -1 toughness. And Unstoppable, discard when attacking to spend 1 power, enemies suffer -1 toughness. Oh, sorry, those were the exact same as well. To a minimum of 1. They did add that little reminder text, which is kind of nice. But there is slight different wording here, because it does say, now again, gameplay wise, it should functionally work the same thing. It says discard before attacking and spend 1 to have enemies suffer -1 against this specific attack. Unstoppable says discard when attacking, enemies suffer -1 toughness. This reduces all of them. Now granted though, it should go away after the end of the attack, so it might not go. There just might be some weird loophole that you might be able to find for that. I haven't seen one, but then we have that. Then we have some little bit of differences. So now we're getting Show of Resolve versus Courageous. So DCEASED has, during your turn, spend 1 power to heal 1 wound, which is, hey, healing is always a great thing. But Marvel gets discard during your turn to spend any amount of power to heal the same number of wounds. They can heal a lot more. This is a much better card. So again, that's, little differences, right? We have Offer Aid and we have Focus. Now they're going to start getting wildly different because there's only so much you can do. But you're going to see the differences between. So Offer Aid says discard to allow 1 other superhero in your zone from a free power-up, action, and draw a trait. So again, we're going, DCEASED has lots of that power-upping to let you get extra energy power points to spend on your abilities or to roll extra dice, and getting other heroic traits. Marvel has discard before attacking, add +1 die roll to ignore target prior ignore target prior for the attack. So this again is focusing on giving you extra benefits to your attack stuff. The next ones we have Rally Allies and Guardian. Discard during your turn, you have all other superheroes within range 2 each gain a power. Going with that. And then Guardian, sorry, a little bit of foil or glare there. Discard when enemy moves into a zone within 2 range containing a bystander or superhero, move into that range, ignoring enemies. So the ones that let you power up all your allies, the other ones that let you jump in and help them out. Which might give you a defensive ability if you have a stack, maybe take an extra hit, maybe you have a trait card to help ignore damage, getting some of that stuff. We have Hold Them Back and Agile. Hold Them Back says discard to spend 1. When a horde zombie would move in your zone, they do nothing for this action instead. Stops them from moving into your zone. And then Agile says discard when an enemy enters the zone to immediately move, ignoring one. So this one stops them from doing anything. That one lets you escape. Which also the difference between spending a power versus a free attack or a free movement. So a little bit different. We got a little bit wordier ones. Into the Fray. Discard during your turn to spend 1 power from 1 move action, moving up to 2 zones, ignoring enemies into a zone, and performing 1 free attack. So this is basically from a zombie side. This is like a charge, or a bloodlust type ability. Yeah, so this is like one of the few ones that DCEASED has where it's actually like, hey, here's a kind of special ability. Marvel gets discard during your turn to spend 1 power, select 1 zone within 2 ranges. All enemies in that zone activate and attempt to move towards you, and that's taunt. These are standard zombie side abilities, but now everyone gets access to them. So that is kind of neat there. Just kind of getting, trying to find some that were sort of similar. So you have Bide Your Time and Inspirational. If you're the last superhero in this round, discard to perform a free action. Or Inspirational, discard during your turn, spend 1 power. Another hero within 1 range may perform 1 action. So both of them are giving out an action. It's just whether you get an action, depending on specifically when you are, or giving anyone a free action at any time. And then they have kind of similar ones as Take the Lead. Says if you're first hero, you get an extra action versus Determine. Discard during your turn to spend 1 power to perform 1 free action. So Determine works almost better than Take the Lead and Bide Your Time because it gets you a free action when you need it regardless of when your turn is. But you have to spend a power versus the other ones, you could get a free action at the beginning or the end of your either one depending on where you are. But the thing, if you're playing a 4-player game, that means if you're player 1, if you have the first one, you get it on round 1, and then you'd have to go, then you discard it. But if you had this one, you were player 1, and you started off, you're player 1, now you have to go turn 2, now you're the, then you have to go all the way around until you're the last player. Then you'd be the last one that time. But if you get stuck in player second or third, you might end up waiting 2 or 3 rounds before you could use it. Versus like Determined, you could use at any time. So there is, again, ups and downs to each of these. We have this. We have Slip Through. Discard during a turn to ignore enemies when moving this turn. So Slippery. Then Dash. Discard when moving. Spend any amount of power to move that many additional zones. Now, it's interesting because DCEASED does not currently have a movement ability like that lets you dash across the map. But Marvel does. But, again, Marvel on the other hand doesn't have a way for you just to ignore enemies. So, it's like stealthy versus, like, speed. So, kind of just some different abilities. So, you can definitely see why you may almost buy both and mix these. And then the last 2 are Unleash Fury, discard before attacking. Each roll of 6 lets you add +1 die. So, again, a zombie side ability. Or Resourceful, discard before attacking to gain 1 range. So, very cool. So, yeah, so those are our different trait cards. As you can see, again, DCEASED overall focuses on, most of the time, giving you additional heroic traits or power-up abilities or extra power, or kind of like defensive stuff, dodging, avoiding attacks, things like that. Marvel tends to be a little bit more aggressive. And I'm not entirely sure why I think part of the idea was kind of based off the comics, is in Marvel, they realized, Like, if I'm a hero, I'm attacking. These guys are undead, whatever. I'm just going to attack them, defeat them. Like, yeah, they're kind of shocked for a second. Like, oh my god, the Avengers, they became zombies. And, like, they'll just go and attack them. Or if as soon as one of their allies becomes it, they immediately just, like, they're undead. Boom, let's get rid of them. And they didn't. But again, that game also, the difference, though, it's hard to, like, justify that because again, it focuses on the core gameplay that came out for Marvel Zombies, and the comic book focus on the zombies as the main characters. So again, like, the hero ones, I think, are kind of trying to even up how the zombies were. When you're playing as zombies, they're just going to always attack and be more aggressive. So I think they had to make the hero side kind of equal that and bounce that. DCEASED is trying to play more off the zombie side. Yes, you see other people, you're surviving. You're killing zombies because you have to, not because you want to. And they become a little bit more, oh, like, I'm Batman. Oh, crap, there's zombie Superman or zombie Nightwing or whoever. Even if it's zombie Joker, Batman's going to, like, hesitate for a bit and not just be like, I'm going to murder him. Because that's not in their nature. Alright, so next thing we're going to look at are spawn cards. Alright, so the spawn cards in general work the exact same way. You play them, you draw them again. You could mix and match them if you want to add more spawns, but the numbers are going to probably be a little bit different. There are a few differences in the decks. DCeased has some new cards that Marvel doesn't have. Marvel has a couple that DC doesn't have. And they're also going to play a little bit different for some other reasons. So one notable thing is, in the Marvel here that are sleeve, they have numbers on them. DC does not. And you might be like, well, why does that matter? One, if you're trying to keep track of which cards, you make sure you didn't lose a card, you can add up Marvel. I have number 1 through 30. I know I have all 30 cards. Versus DCeased does not have that, so you kind of just keep track of it. The other reason is because DCeased works on an interesting scale of easy difficulty, and then kind of medium, and then kind of hard difficulty. So it goes through a first bunch of cards. It has walkers, brutes, runners, zombie heroes that go up to card number 13. Then it starts the deck back over at 14 with some more walkers, and has some, again, each one of each different one. And then at the end, it has some extra special cards. So basically, if you want a little bit easier mode, you grab the first deck of walkers, brutes, runners, zombie heroes. Okay, I can play at this. I have less spawn cards, but it's a little bit easier because I don't have as many cards coming out. They're a little bit lower numbers. And then if you want a little bit harder difficulty, you add the second group of numbers, which adds some more difficult cards to deal with. Then if you want a little bit harder, you can add just special ones in. DCeased just has all walkers, all brutes, all runners, then special cards, then heroes, in that order. So there's nothing to, like, no quick way to separate which one. They just want you to shuffle them all and go. You are playing on that one difficulty the entire time. So there is just a little bit of differences in there. So if we look at some of the numbers for our walkers here for DCeased, as you will see, we have, we have one more here. We have 9s, 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 8, 8s, 7s, and drop all of the bottoms. We have lots of 2s, 3s, and 4s. So then, if we look at some of the Marvel ones here, this is the first tier. We have, let's see if I can spread these out a little bit more. We have a 10 right off. We have a 10 in the first one. It's just the easier one. We have 9s. There's some 7s. Again, the numbers are kind of all over the place because there's some 8s in here. There's a little bit higher numbers in here with some 6s. Like, this is a little bit higher card in there. But the other ones kind of align more about the same. But then the other thing you're going to get, and then if we look at the other one, then there's one more you get with some 8s and 6s and 4s. So there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 regular walker cards, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 walker cards from Marvel. They're all roughly about the same. They're nothing, you get a lot more walkers than you get anything else. But then what you will also have is rush cards, which will, which give them an extra activation right away. And you can see Marvel has a little bit higher numbers on their rushes, and this is even the first set. And then they actually have a third one, which will give them a little bit lower numbers. It matches this one here, but that's in the easier set. But they actually get potentially three rushes instead of 2. So there's that. Then if we look at our brutes, our big bad guys, so in DCEASED we get the 4 clowns, whereas Marvel in the easier set we only get 2. So in right there, so you're gonna get a lot less in DCEASED because again you're mixing everything together. You have a lot more options, but you can start with 2, but then you can also upgrade it to the full 4. So we get 4 of each, potentially. And you can see the numbers are about the same-ish. Looks like DCEASED is a little bit higher with some more 5s in red, a couple more, extra 3 in there. But Marvel has a couple of 2s on the bottom. So they're, roughly about even. Not too terribly different. And then DCEASED gets 2, and then easy mode for zombie side, or Marvel gets 1, and then you can add 2 more when you go up to the difficulty, and they get the rush as well. Again, numbers are fairly close. Again, not the exact same, though. Like, these 2 are the same, and these 2 are the same, but then we have an extra different one. So even like all the other cards, they're not the exact same numbers. There's only so much you can do because you don't want to differentiate too much. And then DCEASED, we have 5 runners. Runners are always a little bit lower because runners have their double activation, so they suck. And then the base, in the easier mode, we only get 2, which have 4s and 3s, so they kind of match these 2 in the middle here a little bit more. But again, not the exact same numbers. But they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those. Kind of slide these down. This actually thing worked out really nice for showing these off. We only get 5 of those, so we get less walkers and less runners overall for Marvel versus DCEASED, but we get the some of them extra rush cards for the other guys that kind of make up for it. Having a group of walkers or a group of brutes activate twice is worse than having an extra set of runners on the board, in my opinion, because having 8 walkers go or 4 brutes have an extra activation versus having an extra group of 5 runners, or 3 runners, is definitely a worse scenario. Alright, so that is where all our similarities kind of end. So then what we have is we want to be able to spawn heroes. So we get 2 cards for easy for Marvel, and then 2 for the hard. So you can potentially have up to all 4 zombies summoned on the board at once. Which is definitely a thing you don't want to happen. But if you're notice here, 1, 1, 1, 1. Doesn't matter what level, you're always going to summon one of them. Where DCEASED does this a little bit differently. They have 4 as well, but every time you summon them, depending on what level you're at, you're going to summon other zombies. So the easier ones, you get walkers, going all the way up. You could get brutes, or you could get runners summoned with them. And what is the difference between doing this is, and we'll look at the zombie cards, and you'll kind of maybe see a little bit of a difference in there, is, again, the zombie, Marvel zombies story-wise and everything, they're supposed to be more in their factors. They're a little bit more powerful. I think they have more special abilities on their cards. So they're a little bit more of a big threat in and of themselves. That's why they just summon themselves. Versus the DCEASED ones, they'll come in, usually their abilities are, and we'll see this when we look at your cards, will be more, they spawn in a certain zone, or they do like a one-time trigger effect. Maybe they reduce your hero's power, or they make a discard trait. But for the most part, they're, like, maybe not health-wise, but like ability-wise, they're not as strong. But they're also summoning a giant horde. And it's also the things, because the heroes here for Marvel Zombies, story-wise, again, they know what they're doing. So it's like, you have Zombie Hulk. He's still going to be like, I'm Hulk. I just want to eat you. Or I'm Spider-Man. I know how to do this. I'm going to eat you. So they're able to kind of move, like, their thought. The kind of idea is they know what they're doing, and they're not going to necessarily, they don't want to share their food, right? They're like, I'm a hero zombie. I can take out other people by myself. I don't need to go share this with the rest of the zombie Avengers or zombie X-Men or whatever. Where the deceased one are mindless hordes. So, that's why there's someone with more things. So if Joker gets turned, he's not going to be like, ha, I can master my plans and still go after Batman. He's going to be like, I don't care if that's Batman over there or if that's Superman or Wonder Woman or Lex Luthor. He's like, he just sees a body he wants to eat. And he's going to go with the other 10, 20 zombies that are with him to try and eat him. He doesn't have any individual grudges and stuff like that. And that's why I think they kind of summon like that. Alright, so with that, though, now we get where the complete differences are, even more so than that. So, we have an extra zombie hero card for deceased. It says Anti-Life Pulse, versus Marvel gets extra activation. So, Anti-Life Pulse says, no zombie heroes on the board. Spawn one zombie hero. All zombies perform one action. One move action, all superheroes within 2 range lose 1 power and must discard a trait. So this is another way to summon an extra zombie, but it's also going to activate everything else. This is an extra activation for all zombie heroes. So instead of them just... this only gives them a move, but then it affects all the other characters. They saw a friend or a loved one or whoever, and they kind of get rattled, and they lose some of their powers. This just gives these guys an extra activation. So it's kind of neat, because you could put both in their deck, and get, if you combine them, and give you some extra crazy stuff. Then Marvel also gets extra activation cards for all 3 groups. So you might have one you draw that just gives you extra activations. Now, these in themselves are terrible to get. But DC does a really extra neat thing. They get a couple extra cards for this reason. So they're going to get... I'm just actually going to spread all 3 of these out because they have different abilities. They get charges. So what it does is when you draw these, it's another summoning card for them. So they get another spawn for each one, and then each one gets a special ability. Runners get suppressive. They move up to 2 zones, and each zone containing the runner, all superheroes lose 1 power. In brutes, they get crushing charge. All brutes move, and then each zone containing a brute, they must discard a hero trait or suffer a wound. And then all walkers get enraged. They all move, and then each zone containing a superhero replaces the walker there with a runner. So it's kind of like the extra activation for each one, except instead of being activation where they may attack a second time, they only get to move. That's the difference between these, because these extra activation, if they're already in zone with heroes, they're going to attack. So that's almost worse, but then these ones, they get extra effects that go with them. So it's kind of neat, plus they're spawning more at the same time. So it's a neat contrast. It's not necessarily that one's better or worse than the other. They're just different. Then we have the last 2. So DCEASED gets the Horde cards, which lets you spawn a bunch, where Marvel gets Bystander in Danger. So Horde cards to spawn all enemies listed at the current levels and all level bullets. So if you're at red, you spawn a hero, and then 1 runner, 1 brute, and 4 walkers. If you're at blue, you just spawn 4 walkers. So drawing these early on aren't as bad. You draw them later, this could be a giant effect, but it gets you more zombies in a unique way. Bystander in Danger says spawn 1 bystander, then activate all walkers within 1 range. So it gives all the walkers an additional range to try and go after that bystander potentially. But also spawns an extra bystander to come out. It's a neat way to get more bystanders. Somewhere else, they're going to spawn on a spawn point somewhere across the board. Now you have extra thing you have to... Oh no, we didn't realize that Mary Jane was trapped inside this building. Now we have to go rescue her. So it adds an addition, because it could spawn in a building or whatever. So it adds a unique thing. So they're very different. Either potentially a bystander in danger, if they get eaten, it's going to really hurt you. Or more enemies. But potentially there's an extra 3 cards in here to summon more hero zombies out, so they might come out more often. So yeah, that's very interesting there. Then we are going to look at the villain, the zombies, and then we'll jump into the heroes after that. So I didn't really look at these to compare them because they're all very, very different. So we have the Huntress versus Scarlet Witch. Both 3 health. So the same there. So nothing major crazy there. But the Huntress says she can attack from one range. Each time she attacks, roll a die on a 5+, any superhero loses all power. So yeah, she can attack from a distance. And she does have a way to kind of defend herself. Scarlet Witch says superheroes must reroll all hits in their zone. Again, infinitely, that's almost worse. So if you roll 4 dice and you get 4 hits on her, yes, I've taken her out. You have to reroll all 4 of them. So you could end up only rolling 2 then, and now she's not defeated. Just range is going to suck. Losing your power is going to definitely hurt. But with Scarlet Witch, you could be like, I have 4 power. I have an ability that lets me roll an extra dice. I have a trait card that lets me throw 3 extra dice. I rolled 8 dice this turn, and you get 8 hits. Doesn't matter. You have to reroll every single one of them, and then still hope that of them 8 dice, you end up rolling 3, at least. So she can be a lot trickier to defeat. We got Catwoman against Doctor Strange here. Getting 3 health for each. I'm going to drop these down so you guys can kind of fall back a little bit. Catwoman says, any superheroes have equipment cards, she spawns in the closest zone containing that hero. So again, she doesn't have an effect that she does something, it's where she spawns. Does mean she can pop up potentially right on top of somebody, which would definitely suck. She's in the closest zone containing them. She didn't spawn in their zone, but she can land next to them, and then she gets her 2 activation, so you can move, or well, she'll be ready for that much closer to them, which definitely does suck. But Doctor Strange says when he activates, if he is not in the zone of the superhero's first action, he moves in the zone closest to his superhero. So hers is kind of very similar ability, but hers is only a spawn, and only if they have an equipment. So if she gets spawned really early in the game, she's going to stay in the normal zone or wherever she spawned from. But later in the game, hopefully you have a couple of equipment. Doctor Strange doesn't care. Every time he's not in the zone, his first action, he's going to move in the zone next to him, and that means his next action, he's going to move into their zone. So it becomes more of a persistent threat. Because you could run away from Catwoman, get far enough away, she still has to follow you, where Doctor Strange is going to keep teleporting to you. So that does make him a little bit harder. Then we have Joker versus Captain America. Again, 3 health, 3 health. Joker has his last and target priority, so a little bit harder to take out. End of his activation, he spawns a runner. So actively, he's going to be harder to deal with. Yet harder to take out because you basically have to take out everybody else or have an ignored priority thing. Otherwise, he's going to keep spawning runners. Captain America says, when a zone is attacked, roll 1 dice for each successful hit on a 5+, cancel that hit. So it's interesting there is like where Wanda is anyone that hits her, it says all hits in her zone. Captain America says, it's attacking their zones. It's not, they don't even care if you have a priority thing that's going against somebody else. It's because you're attacking their zone. They're protecting everyone in that zone. But here it says, for each die, reroll a successful hit on a 5+, cancel that hit. So again, let's say the same thing like we said with Scarlet Witch. If you rolled 8 dice against Captain America, and let's say you got 8 hits, you got super lucky. Oh, I can take out a ton of stuff with this. Every one of them, you roll an extra die. And he could potentially cancel each one. At least Scarlet Witch, you can re-roll them. You have a chance of potentially rolling some high numbers again. If you roll them 8 successes, Captain America rolls 8 dice. If he gets 4 of them at 5+, a 5 or a 6, you lost those 4 dice. Now you don't. Luckily, the other 4 would still hit, but you don't get a chance to re-roll the other potential ones. So if you rolled 8 dice and you got 4 hits, he could re-roll them. He could end up getting 3 cancers on them. Now you only get 1, and you don't have a chance to re-roll any of them other dice. So again, he can be a lot trickier to beat. Then the last 2 we have are a little bit higher health guys. We have Iron Man and Killer Croc, who both have 4, but Killer Croc he gains 1 action and toughness in orange or red danger. So he doesn't have an extra special ability, he just has more health and does more damage. Or doesn't do more damage, but he can move or attack a third time. Where Iron Man says, if he ends his activation at a range of 1 to 2 and line of sight of a hero, he attacks that zone. So although Killer Croc, you'd be like, I just have to, unless you worry about like extra activation, you just have to stay 2 spots away from him until he gets high enough level. Then you have to stay a 3rd spot away from him. Where Iron Man, you always have to, but even if he gets close to you, right? He has you're 3 spaces away, and he has 3 activations. He still has to move 3 to get to your space, then he won't attack you. Iron Man just has to get within 1 to 2 range, then he attacks you. So you always have to stay at least 2 spaces away from him, otherwise he's going to do an attack. He doesn't have to get to your space. So you have to stay that extra distance away. So then it makes him a little bit more proactive and harder. Now, again, does this mean DC's zombies aren't as fun to fight? No, because they're going to be bringing, remember, every time they spawn, they're going to be spawning with additional zombies with them. So although the Marvel heroes might be a little bit stronger, a little bit harder to defeat, if they spawn, they might not ever be in a zone with other zombies. So when you attack that zone, that might be your only focus. Where the deceased ones, they spawn with Brute Walkers. They're going to have a group of Brute Walkers around them. If they spawn, or Brute Walkers behind them, if they spawn with runners and they get 2 activations, they're going to be moving with them runners every time. So if they get to your zone, all of a sudden, you're not just dealing with the hero. You're also dealing with a pile of runners as well. So you have to sit there and stay close enough to try and take out the other zombies around them. And then if they get in your zone and they stop you for a turn for moving, then walkers and brutes can start catching up. So they become more of a threat in numbers as opposed to just themselves being a danger. Cool. Let's take a look at the heroes. So those are our 4 Marvel heroes. And here are the 4, villains, super villains, zombie villains, and here are the DC. Now, one thing to just note in here is, and I'm not sure if this is going to 100% always care about it, pardon me, I didn't really check, but they do have alternate sculpts. So all these characters, or generally all these characters, these are available in other sets. In the campaign version, so you will get these characters again as zombies or as heroes, but the difference is they'll have different sculpts. So it's not just any exclusive characters only to these boxes. The DC ones got some pretty interesting bigger bases. The Marvel ones, when they did the retail, kind of dumbed down their bases a little bit. So just as an example of what I'm talking about, and if you want closer up views, again, you can check out the full videos where I really look at them a little bit more in depth. So here we have Iron Man and Captain America zombies from this set. Here are their regular version releases. So yeah, retail box, regular one. Let me get this to focus a little bit better on you guys. So yeah, it's not like the sculpts themselves are any less detailed. They're definitely still detailed, but we have a little bit more stuff on the base. We have a Juggernaut helmet. Or I wonder if that's just me, maybe like Wrecking Crew. Thunderbolt, but we have an Iron Man helmet. Oh, it could be Hulkbuster. Hulkbuster helmet, another maybe a War Machine helmet. Yeah, or his helmet, Iron Man's helmet. That's his face out. It's just a little bit different there. It's kind of broken out. Again, you might be like, I love this one for the retail one better than I love the kicks or the campaign one. And that's very possible. And we have the same thing, Captain America. So you have a retail one where he's kind of like commanding people. He's actually Colonel America, but he has a Hydra sign. There he has Bucky's arm on the bottom. Stuff that a little bit more tears in his splash. But he has his knee tore out. Each one, he has the shield. But again, they're not any less detailed, just sometimes the bases are a little bit less. Another example here we want to show is retail. We have Spider-Man and Black Panther versus campaign version of Spider-Man and Black Panther. So the Spider-Man goes from just kind of standing on some rocks. Ugh. Just standing on some rocks, but he also has a sign and some scaffolding behind him. Again, like, no less detailed Spider-Man, but a different pose, different, artwork. The same thing, Black Panther here. So we look at his two different ones. Yeah, kind of crouched on a rock versus now he's on a big tree. So definitely both unique. Nothing wrong with either one of them. Either one are both very acceptable. Just, you get your different sculpt bases. Alright, so let's take a look at some of the character cards and kind of see what some of the different abilities are between DCEASED and Marvel. I'm not going to put the rest of the miniatures up. Again, if you want to look at them, go check out the other video. So I didn't really compare these or anything, like to see if like one's different than the other. But I just want to kind of show off some of the different abilities we get. And I'm not gonna try not to read through every single one of these, but we're just kind of see. So we have two melee characters here. With Batgirl and Spider-Man. Both have 3 health, both have the 4 power. But hers has 2 dice and 3 accuracy. His has 3 with 4. Is one better than the other? Lower accuracy means you will hit more often, but you're also rolling less dice. So you're going to do less damage. So if you roll two dice, you got 2 hits, you do 2, where potentially Spider-Man could roll 3 dice, still get 2 hits, and have 1 miss. So it's a little here or there. But yeah, in yellow they always have 1 free action. But see, Batgirl here has more stuff where she has, every time you move a zone, you eliminate zombies. Enters your zone, you get to roll a dice, you might get to eliminate zombies. Each time an enemy enters a zone, you may move. So hers is all about movement. Spider-Man has some stuff where he's spending power. You may move a bystander or a hero, you can move guys around. Web shoot. Enemies enter your zone within 2 range, you can spend 1 to prevent them from moving. Each time spawns within 2 range before rush, you may perform a move. So it has similar things where you just to like spend a point to like affect how enemies work. Get a move around. So kind of similar-ish abilities. Again, I wasn't trying to like pick these out specifically. We just kind of want to see what some of the differences are in comparison. So here we have 2 more things, exact opposite now. He has less dice and less accuracy versus Robin's has a little bit higher. But Robin's all about just straight up attacking. Rolls dice, gets 6s, does extra. Ignore priorities. You can pay things to make less toughness. Gain extra attack action. Eliminate zombie hordes. Horde is just a new term they call any non-hero zombie. Where Black Panther has a very similar. Again, randomly just pick these up. So here's a thing where you can use his regular attack. He can reduce toughness, so it kind of mirrors that a little bit. Spend this to get some extra movement, and then do some extra free attacks. So again, he's very attacking. And then kinetic feedback. Each time you suffer wounds, you could potentially reduce that thing and eliminate extra things. So he also has a way to eliminate extra guys. So again, they're kind of mirroring a little bit with their abilities. Like 2 guys are kind of a little bit about moving or preventing what happens when the enemies spawn, versus we have 2 guys that are kind of more attack oriented. I'm gonna grab 2 other guys that are probably a little bit closer. We have Bane and the Hulk. So again, difference in attacks. Bane actually has a little bit less attack versus Hulk smash. But Hulk also has 1 extra HP. So their first ability is very similar. Both have an extra health, but Bane's just getting extra power every turn. So although he starts with less, he can roll more dice or activate abilities. Hulk has start of your turn, gain 1 power for each wound you have. So he can potentially gain more every single turn, but he's going to have to take damage to do it. So it's a little trade-off, right? Bane could run around at full health and always keep up his extra power. Backbreaker lets you sting extra attack. Spend power to do a bunch of damage to 1 enemy. Where Thunderclap attack with Smash may replace your base dice for 1 dice for each enemy in the zone, ignoring zombie heroes for this attack. So it says also the difference in here is, so very similar abilities. When you use a smash attack, you replace die for one enemy in every zone. So if there's 5 enemies in there, you roll 5 dice. If there's 10 enemies, you roll 10. You ignore zombie heroes. Backbreaker, though, says you gain extra action. So he gains an additional attack. And then during your turn, you can spend any number of power. So you have to spend power, so you can only do it based on how much power he has. But on a 2+, he deals number of hits equal to the number of energy spent to one enemy. So Hulk is basically going to be able to like take out a group of enemies, ignoring heroes, where Bane, on the other hand, is going to be focused on taking out a hero. He's going to be like, you can use it for other guys, but since he only does as many damage, you can spend you spend a bunch of extra power, but you do easily doing extra damage to one thing, which help you take out heroes better. And then the last one is Rampage. So when he uses his crushing might, there are no enemies. He gets a free movement, gets an extra attack. So he gets again kind of get a focus on doing extra power to spend to do attack on a single enemy or a bunch of damage to one enemy, or getting to move around and attack the next thing. Hulk wants to take out a giant group of guys, or peanut zombies, to not suffer wounds from walker or runners, which then kind of makes his Gamma Rage ability a little bit better, but not as good, because if he's at full health towards the end, he's not going to gain extra power as much. But if by the time you get to red, he's down to like 1 or 2 health, he doesn't have to worry about all these small guys anymore. He can just focus on taking out the bigger guys. So yeah, very similar-ish, but different styles. Then to kind of combine, we have Batman versus the Vision. So they're both ranged attacks, but again, a little bit different numbers there. They kind of go back and forth between characters. Batman has more of he's strategist in this version. So during your turn, spend enemies to eliminate Walker within 1 range, or spend 2 to find a specific hero trait. Visions is kind of interesting because it says when you draw a hero trait, you can draw 2 and select 1. So Batman can spend power to get a specific one, where Vision always has the option of drawing 2. So Vision has more of the time has the chance of finding a card he wants by getting extra card draws, where Batman has to spend power, but with spending that power, he gets specifically what he actually needs. Batman's middle one is zombie hero spawns in the form of free action, which can be move, attack, whatever. You spend 2 to allow anyone else to perform an action. Vision says at the start of each enemy phase, you may spend 1 power, select 1 zone thing, 2 enemies. Treat enemies that have zones in that zone as having a superhero in its zone when activating for this phase. So yeah, so what it does is, Batman, like, hero spawns, he gets to do stuff. He can like have somebody else do something. You can kind of prep the deal to spawn. Vision, on the other hand, is a completely different ability. It's just when enemy phase starts, he can basically pick a space and have enemies target that zone. So he gets to control the enemy's battlefield, where Batman controls the hero's survivor's battlefield. And then Batman's last one, Supreme Calculations. Start of each phase, you draw 2 spawn cards, and you can assign 1 where it goes. So again, now he's controlling where the zombies spawn and gets a little preparation. Where Vision has, during your turn, you may allow 1 other superhero to draw 1 free trait, and then perform an action and resume your turn. So now he's almost the opposite. Now he has an ability where he's controlling somewhat what the heroes can do. So it's kind of like not the exact same abilities, but you can see there's similarities. So you're kind of seeing you have a melee guy, you have a movement character, you have a big beefy character, you have a strategist character. You're getting the same vibes, but not the same thing. And now this again, you buy both of these, you could mix them and have a bunch of different characters that do similar things, but not the exact same things. Or you could play with more players. Or again, if you have you buy one of the other sets, you could pick up this, then pick up an expansion for one of the campaign versions. It's kind of maybe fits with what you like. So you have Harley Quinn, Winter Soldier. Both of them melee. Again, one's opposite, one's the other way. It seems to be pretty much even, so they all have 3 melee, 3 range, each have different stats. Harley Quinn's bonk, once turn, eliminate a walker or runner. Pay 1 to eliminate a brute. Winter Soldier's Assassinate. Each time you attack with a combat blade, automatically eliminate a walker or runner in your zone. So Harley gets to automatically do it no matter what. But she can also spend up a little bit extra thing. But the difference is, hers is once per turn. Free, but once per turn. Winter Soldier's is every time he attacks, he gets to eliminate one of the small guys. So if he starts off with 3 actions, he can do 3 attacks and get 3 eliminations out of that, where Harley at most is only going to get 1. So again, similar, a little bit different. Mallet spin, once during turn, after attacking with her mallet, spend 1 to push all enemies to a different zone, then perform a move. So either get closer or back away. Combat reflexes, each time an enemy enters your zone, you may wait for 1 free combat blade. So each one kind of gets you a different attack type of thing. So if enemies get into your zone, Winter Soldier gets to do extra attacks, where Harley can use her attack to get enemies out of her zone. So almost the opposite-ish. And then Psychotic Therapist, during your turn, you have all superheroes within range draw 1 hero trait, then do an attack. Where Winter Soldiers, when you attack with Combat Blade, you may roll any dice during your turn and move for 1 Combat Blade. So his is just all about going to be straight up doing more and more combat. But he gets an additional attack. She gets an additional attack. It's just the difference on what the other part of the ability is. Again, little similar, little different. Alright, then our last, which I think might be very different, are Poison Ivy and Wasp. Both range, a little bit different stats on there. So Vine Grab says during your turn, spend 1 power to either push a superhero, bystander, or enemy within range up to zone. So either pull guys, other miniatures towards you or away from you, as long as it's not a horde zombie. Wasp, completely different. Ignore priority when attacking, do not spend actions when leaving zones with enemies. So hers is going to let her move around a little bit quicker or take out who she needs to do, where Ivy's going to control the battlefield. Overgrowth, when attacking the vine, spend 1 to replace your base stats with 1 die for each zombie in target zone. Ignorance, so basically she can do a lot of damage to 1 zone. But she can't hurt heroes. We had Hulk had attack just like that. Biosynthesis, Wings, during your turn you may spend 1 action for 1 move and move up to 3 zones. So she's going to be kind of more similar to Batgirl, with being able to move a lot. And then Ivy's last one, Unleash the Green. During your turn when attacking, you can also perform 1 free attack against all adjacent zones. And Wasp is, each time you exit or enter a zone with a walker, runner, or brute, eliminate that. So actually, if we flip back to Batgirl, Batgirl has a lot more in common with Wasp. Because each time you enter or exit a zone, eliminate one of the guys. Hers does a little bit more, but it's also on red. Here we have enemy enters your zone, get a free action. Once during turn, you can move extra or you can ignore. So a little bit more similar in that sense. But if we compare the other two, Spider-Man is, I guess, a little bit more like Ivy than maybe that, because he has stuff that controls the battlefield. During your turn, you can move guys, web shooters, you can prevent action. Hers does damage. She does more damage with hers, but he gets to perform actions. Or Spawn, you can get an extra free action. So I guess these two are a little bit more similar, but one's a range, one's a melee. So that is what we have for those guys. So a little bit, you can kind of see where there's similarities and differences between each one. Alright, so this was a very long video, so I thanks for anyone that has stuck around this long. But now you kind of got the option, you kind of see what you're looking at. So if you had to choose one of these two, it's kind of which one do you want. The heroes are all kind of similar, each one a little bit differently, but all have kind of like same abilities. The hero traits, DC tends to focus, again, overall with their bystanders and their hero traits, tend to focus more on giving you extra dice or extra trait cards. But then they also have the equipment, which gives you extra attack options. But their zombies also zombies are going to come in more hordes. They have less extra activations, but they have more ways of having more guys come at you. Marvel, on the other hand, you get more attack actions or special actions with your trait cards. Your bystanders give you extra attack actions. They can also defend themselves. To get that, but the zombies are going to come quicker. They might not come as many, but they're going to come quicker. Then the zombie heroes, they also tend to have more special abilities, but they attack alone versus the DC ones where they have a lot and they come at you. Yeah, so then and then all the other little stuff is a little bit different. You have the bat signal versus the Avenger sign, which are kind of one does one thing, one does the other. They're not really comparable to each other in that sense. And that's just the little minor aesthetics of the Marvel dice have extra pictures on them, or they have their crates are a little bit different. But again, that's very minor point. Yeah, so which one do you want? Do you want to have, more options as your heroes with the equipment, but you have to fight more and more harder zombies? Or do you want a little bit stronger villains and bystanders to defend themselves and more attack options? But then it's more about I have 3-4 different options to attack versus I just have my character that can roll more dice. Yeah, so it's up to you guys. You like DC or Marvel better, you'll probably choose that direction. If you own any of the campaign stuff and you're looking at picking these up, I think the character cards are probably definitely worth it. If you like the standees versus having miniatures, or you don't like the miniatures because you don't like them specific characters, the Hellfire, Reaver, multiple man miniatures, or the LexCorp guys, these add an interesting different dynamic to that as well. Because you use all these zombies for that. The only downside is that means as you buy expansions, any new types of zombies in the expansions will all be miniatures as well. So then you'll have, again, that mixture of miniature zombies and non, so you kind of run into that issue. Yeah, or if you just want a couple of cheap base games, you guys, hey, I can't find the campaign stuff, or I didn't kickstart it, or I want to wait to save up to buy the Kickstarter campaign versions to get all the extra special stuff, so I'm going to order them from an eBay or a third-party store. But you're looking to get into it a little bit cheaper, you could pick up both of these. Mix and match your heroes and stuff. Again, you have decks with different backs, but you just shuffle them together, or have 2 different piles, just one time draw from one draw from the other, or pick and choose, however you like to do it. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you'd like to see other videos like this, where I compare different types of games, or different sets together, or just do deeper dives into some stuff that maybe I didn't do, like go back, review some of the Marvel characters, or when DCEASED comes out, just go through and review all the characters in one video, and just do a character video, let me know in the comments. I'll be more than happy to do them if that's something people would like to see. See you guys later. Bye.